So a while back, I ordered a set of USD Sway sole plates to try on my them 909s, which are these jobbers right here. I never really got around to trying them, and I think because right after I ordered them, I switched back to skating M12s for a little while because I thought that those were the skates I liked more. But then I switched back to the 909s and realized I was just having a bad skate day, and I blamed it on the 909s. But I've been skating the 909s for quite a bit now, and I'm very happy with them, and they're definitely my favorite skate. So I'll be sticking with them. But I recently upgraded to a set of fresh white ones. Well, they were fresh the other day. I've skated them a few times. And I've been skating them with the medium wish frames. I got them in the bubblegum color, but I dyed them black. So I thought it was a little bit much, and the effect of dyeing it black I think is pretty cool because as it grinds down, you start to see some of the pink, but it doesn't just like come off in big chunks like paint would, because the dye actually seeps in to the frame material. So I've been skating them dyed black for a while, and like this is how they look. It hasn't changed that much. And the cool thing is like this area inside here that doesn't ever touch anything, that'll stay black. So I like the subtle pink in there. So anyway, I set up one of my old 909s with the USD Sway sole plate. And as you can see, it's a nice fit. You have to modify them a little bit, which I'll show you on the other one. I didn't make a video doing that process because there's a few on there. But as you can see, they fit the boot. They fit the boot nice. There's not really any area where there's a gap. In the back on the heel, there's like a tiny gap, but it's really not that big of a deal. So they're not dramatically bigger than the 909 soles, but they're more consistent. The 909s taper in the back, whereas on these Sway soles, they're pretty wide. Also, the negative space is a bit bigger on the Sway soles, especially on this part right here, which is cool because I've been enjoying some negative setups recently. And also skating these, I figured I would just put my old Anti-Rocker Create Original frames on here. That way I can sort of do a better review of the medium wish frames, since I don't know, I can skate the two different skates. So I'll get like a, two different setups going on. So since I don't have the other one together yet, I'll show you what I had to do to modify it. There's some good videos that I found online. But basically you just have to take a Dremel and sort of sand down some of this area because it hits the boot. I saw someone say that you can just sort of force it in there and tighten it down and it'll be okay. But these shells barely fit my foot as it is, so I didn't want to make it even tighter. So I filed those down quite a bit so there wasn't any pressure on the boot. And then what you need to do is drill some holes in the bottom of your shells to fit these. The best way to do this is when you take off your sole plates, there's already going to be some marks where the UFS bolts would go from the stock bolts. Usually just like touch the boot. On both sets of mine, it had it. So usually you can just use that hole where the bolt touches as a guide, and then you just drill a hole through. And when you do that, you can use the UFS bolts to bolt the sole plate onto the frame, and then you'll know that it's perfectly centered because you'll be using those UFS holes. And then once that's in right, then you can drill the holes for these other 4 attachment points. So you'll end up with some more holes underneath, but it's not that big of a deal. And when you have it already attached to the sole plate like this, you don't have to worry about lining them up because you can just drill right through the existing holes in the sole plates. So it's pretty easy. In terms of hardware, I'm using the hardware from some Razors that I had, but I think you can probably use whatever. You can't use them hardware because they use those like the backing plates are for 2 different bolts, so it's like a bridge, which is a nice thing, but it doesn't work with these because the hole distance is separate, is not the same. So you do need some hardware. I think you could probably use Rosie's hardware or Razor's hardware, but you just gotta file a little bit of this, put them on there, and then they are good to go. So I'm gonna test them out and talk about them, but just wanted to do a quick intro on that setup. Okay, so I've had a chance to skate the Sway sole plates on my 909s, and I can say that I am very happy with them. I wouldn't say that they're like a game changer or like a huge difference. I still think the stock 909 plates are great. I have no problems with them, but there are a few things that I do like better about the Sway plates. For example, they've got a deeper groove on the like Royale backside plate area, and it feels more locked, especially on rails. When you're doing like a boot trick, like a Royale or a backslide, you feel more locked into place, which is a nice feeling. On the 909 plates, there's not really much there. There's just like a little indent, which, feels fine. I had no problems doing Royales and backslides and groove tricks on these. But I think if you're more of a beginner, you might really benefit from how controlled and locked in this feels when you're grinding. The extra negative space was a nice improvement. I don't know if improvement is the right word, but it's makes negatives easier. The soles feel good. I heard that someone mentioned they were faster. I don't know if they're faster. In my experience, they weren't faster, but they're a bit bigger, so there's more wiggle room there. Especially maybe if you're starting out and having trouble locking soles, the extra width is helpful, especially in the back. On the 909 sole plates, it sort of tapers a little bit. It's not as noticeable now because my outer edge on the front has worn down a little bit from doing a Royales and Cess slides, stuff like that. So as you can see, I had the Sway sole plates on these boots because I didn't want to drill into my new 909s, but I liked them so much that I put them on my main setup. Yeah, I like them a lot. I think they're great. I like the way the black looks on the white boots, and at the moment black 909 sole plates are sold out. So but as I mentioned, the fitment's good. They feel really secure. They don't feel dramatically different. It's definitely a subtle change. Skating them back to back, they feel similar. As I mentioned, the groove is just a little bit deeper on these, so it feels, a little bit more controlled, but it doesn't feel like I'm skating different skates. The difference between the sole, like there's no height difference. I know in some skates, if the feeling of where your sole locks on feels different, it's I didn't notice that at all with these. Everything feels great. In the review, I skated an anti-rocker setup on my other 909s because I didn't want to do the process of switching the wish frames, because you have to take out these middle wheels to unbolt the frames, and to take out the middle wheels you have to take out the outer wheels because they're really tight fit. It's a nightmare. So I skated anti-rocker, and I thought it would be a good way to also get better thoughts on this wish setup that I've been skating, because I hadn't skated anti-rocker since I switched to these. What I found interesting was that I've skated anti-rocker pretty much the whole time I skated before I stopped, and at the end I was even skating freestyle for I think a couple years, with just no wheels in the middle. After skating for a couple months on this flat wish setup, I think that I'm broken because I could not handle anti-rocker. It took me a long time to even get used to rolling around. It felt really slow. I hated how locked into place my feet felt, and I was definitely a flat skeptic for a while and didn't think it would make that big of a difference. But I love this setup. These wish frames, the medium ones, I didn't really like the full size. The bigger ones, there's a review on my channel if you want to see my feelings on that. I didn't really like it, but these I think are perfect. There's pretty much no compromises. I don't get wheel bite at all. The only time I got wheel bite once, and I think I would have gotten wheel bite on an anti-rocker setup because I was doing trying to do a fast slide on a ledge, and I would have had to have been riding freestyle to not get wheel bite because it was just a stupid thing. But I've never gotten wheel bite on a Royale or Unity or any variation of those kind of things. But just the maneuverability and how much better it feels on my knees is a huge improvement over anti-rocker setup. Also the wheels, the wearing down, I'm a pretty heavy guy, and I pretty much probably wore 50% of the life off of those dead wheels that I was skating on the anti-rocker setup in just the couple days I skated that setup. Whereas the same wheels on this setup I've had for a couple months now, and they still look new. So if you're a heavy person and you're skeptical about skating flat or justifying the cost, you're gonna save a lot of money on how fast you go through wheels. It also just sounds so much more solid. I noticed with the anti-rocker setup, once I've been skating for an hour, there's just so much creaking and it just sounds crappy, but there's none of that with this. So this setup is by far the best setup I've ever skated. So those are my thoughts. Hope that's helpful.